The world was watching. In Jerusalem, under blinding stage lights, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu leaned forward toward the microphone. His voice was steady at first, but the room caught a slight tremor. President Ibrahim Traoré, I ask you, man to man, for a partnership. Gasps rippled through the audience. This was not the Netanyahu people knew, the defiant, unshaken leader. He looked cornered. Ibrahim Traoré, the young and resolute president of Burkina Faso, sat silent. His eyes, deep and unblinking, locked on Netanyahu like he could see straight through him. The tension was thick enough to taste. Cameras clicked. A single drop of sweat slid down Netanyahu's temple. No one had ever seen him plead publicly. Something serious was happening, something the world didn't yet understand. Ibrahim finally spoke, his tone calm but razor-sharp. Prime Minister, before I answer, tell me why. The air froze. A reporter in the back swore she could hear the hum of the stage lights. Netanyahu hesitated, glancing toward his aides. His voice dropped lower. Because without you, my country is about to face something it cannot survive. The room erupted. Journalists shouted questions in Hebrew, English, and French, but Netanyahu kept his eyes on Traoré. This wasn't politics, it was desperation. Traoré didn't move. He knew better than to rush. In diplomacy, silence can break a man faster than words. Explain, Ibrahim said quietly. Netanyahu's throat bobbed as he swallowed. The supply lines, critical ones, are collapsing. Our trade routes in Africa are under threat. There are forces blocking us at every turn. Your country controls the last open passage. It was a rare admission of weakness. Netanyahu's usual steel was gone, replaced by something raw and human. Traoré's gaze softened for a fraction of a second, but it was gone before anyone could notice. Why should I trust you now, when before you only saw us as, insignificant? The Prime Minister flinched. Around them, the room's heat felt heavier. An aide shifted nervously, his pen tapping against his folder in rapid, uneven beats. I'm not asking for charity, Netanyahu said, his voice breaking slightly. I'm asking for survival. But Ibrahim leaned back, his silence louder than any answer. Netanyahu's hand trembled slightly as he adjusted his tie. He knew the cameras were catching everything. The world would see him as vulnerable, perhaps even weak. But he couldn't stop now. There are whispers, he said, voice low. Whispers that Russia and China are moving in to cut us out entirely. If that happens, Israel will be isolated in ways we've never faced before. Ibrahim's brow furrowed. This wasn't just an economic plea. It was geopolitical. It could shift the balance of power on the continent. The president of Burkina Faso remembered the years his country had been ignored, its people dismissed. He remembered the sanctions, the subtle insults from powerful leaders. And now, here was one of them, asking for his hand. I will not trade my nation's dignity for someone else's safety, Ibrahim said evenly. But then, unexpectedly, he added, unless. Every journalist leaned forward. Netanyahu froze. Unless what? He asked. Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. Unless you're willing to do something no leader in your position has ever done before. The room fell silent. No one dared breathe. Netanyahu's lips parted, but no words came. Ibrahim Traoré had given him an opening, but it was one that could shatter his image if he took it. What exactly are you asking me to do? Netanyahu asked, his voice quieter now, like he feared the answer. Ibrahim didn't blink. A public acknowledgement, on record, that Africa is not a resource to be exploited, but a partner to be respected, and not in vague speeches, clear words that your own people and the world cannot twist. The request hung heavy in the air. It wasn't money. It wasn't land. It was something more dangerous. Humility. Netanyahu shifted in his seat. The sound of a camera shutter clicked like a ticking clock. His advisors looked panicked. This was political suicide. "I can't just," he began. "You can," Ibrahim cut in, his voice calm but unyielding. "The question is, will you?" A sudden gust rattled the glass doors at the back of the hall. Somewhere outside, a protester's voice rang out, chanting in French. Netanyahu's eyes darted toward the sound, then back to Ibrahim. He knew the next words he spoke could change everything. Netanyahu leaned forward, elbows on the table. The sweat on his forehead caught the light, making him look almost fragile. "You want me to stand in front of my nation, my enemies, and admit I've been wrong?" he asked, his tone half disbelief, half fear. "Yes," Ibrahim replied simply. There was no malice in his voice, no triumph, just truth. Netanyahu exhaled slowly, his fingers curling into fists. "You don't understand. My political career wouldn't survive it. My own allies would turn against me." Ibrahim's voice dropped. "Then maybe the survival of your career is not as important as the survival of your people." For the first time in the meeting, Netanyahu's eyes softened. It wasn't weakness. It was something else. A flicker of shame. The scent of strong coffee from the press table drifted through the air, oddly grounding the moment in reality. Outside, the chanting grew louder. Netanyahu glanced at the cameras. He knew that if he agreed here, the world would see a man brought to his knees, not by force but by truth. And for a split second, he seemed ready to say yes. But just as Netanyahu opened his mouth, a door at the side of the hall slammed open. A senior Israeli military official rushed in, whispering urgently in Netanyahu's ear. Whatever was said made the prime minister's face drain of color. Ibrahim watched closely, reading every flicker of emotion. "Something happened?" he asked. Netanyahu hesitated. His jaw tightened. "One of our trade convoys in West Africa. It's been seized." Gasps filled the room. Reporters scrambled to their phones. Ibrahim's tone stayed even. "By who?" Netanyahu's answer came in a whisper. "A coalition of African states, nations you've openly defended in the UN." The words landed like a hammer. The tension doubled. Some in the room looked at Ibrahim as if expecting him to apologize. But he didn't flinch. Instead, he leaned in, his voice low but clear enough for the microphones to catch. "Then perhaps, Prime Minister, the question is not whether you can trust me, but whether they can trust you." Netanyahu's throat tightened. His eyes darted toward the cameras again, because now the whole world was listening. The press hall was chaos, journalists shouting, security rushing to block the side entrance. Netanyahu sat frozen, his fingers tapping nervously on the desk. Ibrahim stayed still, calm as stone. "Why is this convoy so important?" he asked. Netanyahu didn't answer immediately. He seemed to weigh whether to speak or not, then finally whispered, "It wasn't just goods. My sister, she was on that convoy." The room went silent. For a moment, Ibrahim's expression shifted, not to pity but to quiet understanding. This was no longer only about politics. Netanyahu looked at him directly now, his eyes glistening. "I thought I could protect her by sending her with our strongest escort. I didn't think—" His voice cracked, and he stopped speaking. Ibrahim leaned forward, his tone gentle but firm. "If this is true, then we need to talk honestly, without the games." The chanting outside grew faint, as if the world itself was holding its breath. "Help me," Netanyahu said, his voice breaking fully for the first time. The admission changed everything. For the first time, the room felt less like a political battlefield and more like a plea between two men. Ibrahim considered his next words carefully. "If I intervene, It will send a message to every African leader watching. They will think I've taken sides. I will lose trust that took years to build. Netanyahu wiped his forehead, his hands shaking. I know. But I don't care about the politics right now. I just want her alive. A sudden memory flashed in Ibrahim's mind. His own younger sister, who had once been trapped in a cross-border crisis. He remembered the helplessness, the gnawing fear. He didn't show it, but that memory pierced through his resolve. Leaning closer, Ibrahim spoke in a low, steady voice. If I help you, it will not be for your government. It will be for her. Netanyahu nodded quickly, almost desperately. But then Ibrahim added, and you will still have to fulfill what I asked. Stand before the world and tell the truth about Africa. Netanyahu swallowed hard. If I agree, will you guarantee her safety? Ibrahim's eyes locked on his. No leader can guarantee life, but I can promise I'll act with everything I have. Outside, the chanting returned, louder than before, mixed with the sound of drums. The air in the room felt thicker, heavier. A phone rang sharply, a journalist's device, and the brief vibration against the wooden bench made everyone flinch. Netanyahu inhaled deeply, his voice almost trembling. Then I agree. A single sentence, but it shifted the entire atmosphere. Ibrahim gave a slow nod. Good. Then we move now. The two men stood, and for a moment the political armor between them seemed to vanish. What remained were two brothers in humanity, both fighting for someone they loved. But before they could leave, one of Ibrahim's aides rushed in, breathless. Mr. President, she whispered urgently in French, we've just received word. The convoy hasn't stopped moving, and it's heading toward a border controlled by forces we can't negotiate with. Netanyahu's face went pale. Ibrahim's eyes narrowed. This rescue had just become far more dangerous. The news hit like a thunderclap. The convoy was moving fast, but now it was heading into a no-man's land, territory controlled by armed groups that answered to no government. Ibrahim's jaw clenched. He knew this area well. A tangled maze of loyalties, danger lurking behind every tree. Any rescue there would risk lives, including his sisters and Netanyahu's guards. Netanyahu paced nervously, his usual composure cracked wide open. We have no choice but to act now, he said, voice tense. Ibrahim nodded, eyes cold but determined. Gather your forces, but we move carefully. No mistakes. Outside, the city's evening air smelled faintly of burning wood and dust. The distant drums grew louder, echoing the rising storm inside the room. As plans formed quickly, a technician clicked through satellite images, zooming in on the convoy's path. The camera caught a sudden flare, smoke rising through the thick forest canopy. The room fell silent. A reminder. Time was running out. Hours later, live on Burkinabe national television, Ibrahim stood before the cameras. The whole continent was watching. With a calm voice that carried both steel and sorrow, he announced a rare, unprecedented decision. We are launching a joint operation, not just to protect our people, but to rescue those in danger, regardless of borders or politics. Behind him, a large screen showed satellite images and maps, the glowing red dots marking danger zones. The unexpected announcement shocked everyone. Some cheered, others whispered in disbelief. Netanyahu's advisors panicked. This was political suicide. But Ibrahim's eyes burned with a fierce light. This is about humanity, not power, he said. Suddenly his phone buzzed. A message flashed. Convoy intercepted. Hostages taken. His breath caught. The room seemed to tilt. The stakes were now painfully real. Ibrahim faced a brutal truth. Rescue meant risking war. Silence stretched thick. Back in the crisis room, Ibrahim and Netanyahu watched live feeds of the rescue operation unfolding. Soldiers moved through dense jungle, voices hushed but tense. Suddenly, the video feed crackled. A hostage appeared on screen, Netanyahu's sister. She looked scared but alive. Then, a new message. The kidnappers demanded a ransom, not in money, but a public withdrawal of Israeli presence from parts of Africa. Netanyahu's face went pale. He looked at Ibrahim, pleading silently for a solution. Ibrahim's mind raced. He could order a risky assault, likely to end in bloodshed, or negotiate, risking appearing weak to the world. The room smelled of stale coffee and sweat. A clock ticked loudly, every second echoing the weight of impossible choices. Ibrahim took a deep breath, his voice steady but heavy. We will not negotiate under threat, but we will act to save her. Netanyahu's eyes filled with tears. Then Ibrahim's phone buzzed again, an encrypted message from a surprise ally. This could change everything, or destroy it all. Next big twist, testing Ibrahim's leadership like never before. The encrypted message blinked on Ibrahim's phone. We can help, but it comes with a price. Ibrahim glanced at Netanyahu, whose eyes reflected a mix of hope and dread. Who is it? He asked quietly. A shadowy figure from the West African Regional Coalition had stepped forward, someone few trusted, but whose reach was undeniable. Ibrahim felt the weight of history pressing down. This was the same group that had often complicated his diplomatic efforts, but now offered a lifeline. Tell them we're listening, Ibrahim said. The response was immediate. We can launch a covert extraction, but Netanyahu must publicly renounce any plans to expand Israeli influence in Africa. The world must see it as a gesture of respect. The demand echoed Ibrahim's original request, and now Netanyahu's political fate was on the line. Netanyahu looked crushed but nodded. If it saves my sister, Ibrahim met his gaze, voice firm. If it saves her, and brings a new era of respect. Outside, the city lights flickered under a gathering storm. The night had become a battlefield of trust and sacrifice. Ibrahim stepped back in front of the cameras, the weight of the world on his shoulders. Effective immediately, he declared. Burkina Faso will lead a joint operation with regional forces to rescue the hostages. We stand united, not for conquest, but for peace. The statement sent shockwaves through global media. Some hailed it as a breakthrough, others as a betrayal. Netanyahu's voice cracked in a private moment. I don't know if I can survive this politically. Ibrahim placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Sometimes, leadership demands sacrifice beyond ourselves. That night, Ibrahim lay awake, haunted by the faces of the innocent caught in this crisis. In the distance, thunder rumbled, nature echoing the storm raging within him. The rescue mission launched at dawn. Helicopters hummed through thick clouds, soldiers moved like shadows, every step heavy with risk. In the command center, Ibrahim and Netanyahu watched monitors with bated breath. Suddenly, a burst of gunfire erupted on screen. Soldiers scrambled. The hostage's location was compromised. A soldier shouted, "We're pinned down." Ibrahim clenched his fists. "Hold the line." Minutes felt like hours. Then, unexpectedly, the gunfire ceased. On the screen, the hostage emerged, surrounded but safe. Relief washed over the room, too soon. A final message appeared. This isn't over. Others are watching. Ibrahim's eyes darkened. This was bigger than a rescue. It was a test of his vision for Africa's future. Netanyahu looked at him, silent but changed. What had started as a desperate plea was now a turning point for two leaders and the world. The rescue was a success, but the cost was clear. Netanyahu's sister was safe, but the operation exposed deep fractures across the region. Political allies turned cold, alliances wavered, and the world watched with bated breath. Ibrahim sat alone in his office, the weight of victory heavy on his shoulders. The silence was broken only by the steady tick of a worn clock. He thought of the faces he carried in his heart, his people, the innocent caught in power struggles, and now the fragile hope born from sacrifice. A message flashed on his phone, a heartfelt note from Netanyahu. "Thank you for saving not just my sister, but for showing me a new way." Ibrahim smiled softly, the burden feeling a little lighter. But beyond the walls of power, a question lingered. Had this moment truly changed the course of history, or was it just the calm before another storm? The world reacted in waves. Some hailed Ibrahim Traoré as a visionary leader who stood tall when others faltered. Others whispered doubts, questioning if Netanyahu's reluctant humility would last. In Burkina Faso, people poured into the streets, tears streaming, voices raised in cautious celebration. They saw in Ibrahim a protector, not just of their land, but of their dignity. Behind closed doors, Ibrahim prepared a speech, not of victory, but of unity and healing. He knew the road ahead was long and uncertain. But for the first time, the possibility of true partnership glimmered on the horizon. Standing before the world, Ibrahim's voice was steady, filled with hope and sorrow. Today, we chose humanity over hatred. We chose respect over power. But our journey is just beginning. His eyes scanned the crowd, knowing the true test lay ahead, not in rescue or politics, but in lasting change. And then, just as the camera zoomed in, a sudden power cut plunged the room into darkness. For a heartbeat, silence reigned. When the lights flickered back, Ibrahim was gone. A stunned gasp rippled through the crowd. What had happened in that black moment? Was it an attack, a kidnapping, or something else entirely? The world held its breath, waiting for the answer only Ibrahim could give. If you felt the story gripped you, please like, comment your thoughts, and subscribe for more powerful, emotional stories that will keep you hooked from start to finish. What do you think happened in that final blackout? Let me know below. I'm eager to hear your theories.